Warm greetings, Code Monkeys and fellow VEDSies, and welcome back to CodedLockFilms. I'm trying out a new angle here. What do you think? Today I am going to be completing Spartanite 67's challenge. Well, sort of. He wanted us to come up with 3 examples of a modern Greek tragic hero. Unfortunately, I can only come up with one. I've actually been thinking about it a lot, and this is the only one that I could come up with, but I do think it's an interesting one. My example of a modern Greek tragic hero is Draco Malfoy. I know this one's a little weird, but stick with me. I believe that Draco Malfoy could very, very easily be considered a modern-day Greek tragic hero when viewed from a certain perspective, and I'm going to explain that perspective to you guys now. With that said, let us examine the criteria. Criteria number 1, they must be born into either wealth or station. Well, yeah, this one's pretty easy and pretty straightforward. Malfoy's family is incredibly financially well off. Draco's father has so much money that he can easily afford to just casually buy the entire Slytherin Quidditch team a set of 7 Nimbus 2001s, and it doesn't even really seem to matter. Throughout the entire series, it is constantly demonstrated that, at least from a financial standpoint, Draco Malfoy wants for nothing. And he is also born into a fairly high social station. Amongst the Slytherins, at least in Hogwarts, he is held in extremely high regard. And it's also demonstrated that his family has a lot of influence within the wizarding world. Number 2, they must be great either in position, skill, or intent, but not perfect. This one might sound like it'd be a little bit hard to argue, but look at it from Draco Malfoy's point of view. From his point of view, and from the point of view of a lot of people in the wizarding world for that matter, he believes that a pureblood society is the best form of society for the wizarding world to take. His entire outlook on life, his whole belief structure is centered around this fundamental ideal. It's not an ideal to many of the people in the wizarding world, and it's certainly not the ideal to the reader, but to the crowd that Draco Malfoy typically runs in, the notion of working to return the wizarding world to a pure-blood society is a noble intent indeed. Now, in terms of not being perfect, you could very, very easily say that, well, of course he's not perfect. He's rich and spoiled and super racist. But again, if we're looking at the story from the perspective of the Malfoys and the people who think like them, seeing purebloods as inherently superior is a good thing. It's the proper way of thinking. So from that perspective, how is Draco Malfoy imperfect? Well, to put it quite plainly, he's a coward. Draco Malfoy is not like a proper Death Eater. He has neither the courage nor the conviction to stand up for his fundamental belief of pureblood purity when the going gets tough. In fact, he goes in the complete opposite direction. Which brings us very neatly to number 3, their downfall is partially their own fault. As we've already said, Draco Malfoy does not have the courage or the convictions to help create a world in which his beliefs can be made into reality. And in that way, his downfall is at least partially his own fault. It, of course, is also partially Voldemort's fault, because Voldemort essentially gives him an impossible task to complete. By the way, yes, I do pronounce it Voldemort. The reason that I pronounce it that way is because I've been listening to the Jim Dale Harry Potter audiobooks over and over and over again for a really long time. And in the earlier audiobooks, he pronounces Voldemort's name as it was originally intended to be pronounced by J.K. Rowling, but she eventually backed down when pretty much the entire world, aside from her, pronounced it Voldemort. But I don't know, I just like the way Voldemort sounds better. But anyway, number 4, the fall must be acknowledged by the hero. We never see Draco Malfoy acknowledge his downfall verbally, but it is very clear through his actions and his demeanor that he fully understands the fact that his family has entirely lost their station within Voldemort's inner circle. And while he does still maintain his great wealth, that doesn't really go anywhere. In a post-Voldemort world, the Malfoy family has basically lost its societal clout. To the point that in the aftermath of the Battle of Hogwarts, the Malfoy family is sitting there amongst the victors of Hogwarts, seeming unsure of whether or not they're supposed to be there, and nobody even really seems to notice that they're there. They're just not on anybody's radar anymore. They're not important. And finally, number 5, draw a distinction between a tragic hero and a martyr. This one is pretty easy and straightforward to me as well, because the Malfoy family's downfall does not happen for the sake of a cause. It happens simply because both Draco and Lucius Malfoy failed in their ambitions. They were not able to see their goals realized. They utterly failed to enact the change they wanted to see in the world. And it is for those reasons that I believe that, from his own perspective, Draco Malfoy could easily be considered a classic Greek tragic hero. I hope this more in-depth discussion makes up for the fact that I only came up with one example. And that is pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know what you thought of this video down in the comments. Let me know what you think of this new camera angle down in the comments. And until next time, Code Monkeys and fellow VEDSies, I will see you tomorrow.